Greetings Internet, DDA here, and welcome to a very exciting video that I have bringing to you. We just won the AU Alternate Universes Delaware PQ. The planetary qualifier is ours. Our World 2026 invite is ours. And to start out this video, I'm just going to preface it by saying, if you don't like long stories, hey, you know, if you're here for the Gar ECL deck and the Gar ECL overview, look at the comment section, look in the description section. There will be a jump to a further section in the video where I focus on the Gar ECL list. But, you know, to tell this story of why I played this deck at AU Delaware over the past weekend, I have to start at the beginning, and the beginning happens to be the Galactic Championship. Because the reason that I played this deck is really because of the Galactic Championship. So my wife and I actually drove to the Galactic Championship, 36 hours across the United States. We're from Pennsylvania, so it was a wild trip. It was crazy. We had highs, we had lows. We saw some amazing scenery. We ate at wonderful places, and we just had a blast. Like, you know, my wife is my ride or die, and if I had to pick anyone to drive across this United States with, I chose a good partner because we just had such fun, and I could depend on her when I needed to. When I couldn't drive anymore and I had to sleep, I could depend on her, and so we really leaned on each other through this trip, and it was just a great bonding experience and something I'll never forget. Like, driving through parts of the Grand Canyon in Utah and in Arizona, going through those Rocky Mountains, you won't forget that, and I won't forget that. It was just a crazy experience, and almost a better experience than the Galactic Championship. Although that's not saying the Galactic Championship was bad. I had such a great time in the Galactic Championship. I pretty much just jumped into the tournaments. I played, so let's talk about why I ended up on, Gar ECL. So Gar ECL was not the deck that I was on at the Galactic Championship. The Galactic Championship deck that I actually ran was Yoda Red. Now, Yoda Red was something that a friend of mine, Carabas Dev Anthony, was actually jumped on this as soon as the set was revealed, basically. Basically, as soon as they revealed the new Ray unit, he jumped on this deck. Him and another one of our local guys, Dave, jumped on it, and they were just grinding games, and they were talking to me about it, talking about the Ray, and I was on. I can't even remember what deck I was on when the set dropped. I think Ray 5 or something like that, or I was working on different space aggro, like space mid-rangey aggro decks, trying to push space. But, I was basically, I was kind of like, had a watchful eye on this Yoda deck, this Ray deck. Some videos dropped about it. I think Mog TCG dropped a video on it. I want to say Veiled Shot dropped a video on it as well. So multiple content creators are dropping videos on it. It's kind of like the pet deck of the set. This new Ray comes out. We all want to see how far you can push its limit. A lot of people actually ended up playing this deck at Worlds, and I had some great conversations with some of the top table players, during day 2. I don't know if you saw me, lurking around the day 2 tables. They actually told me I couldn't at a certain point. I think it was later in the day, in day 2 or day 3. I think maybe day 3, I maybe snuck over there to try to get some insider information of what was making day 3. Not insider information, but just like information on what was being played in day 3. And the judges told me, hey, you got to get out of here. I'm like, all right. I'll just watch it online like a normal person. But no, that's fine. I completely understand. The judges did a great job this weekend, just, keeping everything tight and then making great judge calls. I saw a lot of judge calls. Judges did a great job this weekend. But, back to this deck. So, a fair number of people, I think around 10 or 15 people converted day 2 with this deck, this red. Different variations, like I said, I had a lot of discussion with some Yoda Red players. This is actually not the list that I ran. This is actually the list I ran in the Open. This is the list I ran in the Open. Between the Open and the qualifier, so I ended 5-3 in the qualifier. I missed the cut by one. Round 7, the Mandalorian Data Vault got me. You know, Space Aggro. Space Aggro's tough for Yoda. It's fast, and me particularly, I had a focus on Han 2. I thought Han 2 was going to be something on the order of 40% of the meta going into Worlds. Like, I thought it was just going to be the deck that everyone leaned on, as like, because it was early in the set, and you know, not a lot of testing had happened. So I assumed that people were going to be leaning on what was obvious. And I was right, but just not right as I wanted to be. Because you could see, like, for example, I switched some things around. Like, some things are weird in here, right? So, like, I swapped the open fires for the chokes. You know, a lot of Yodas were on 3 open fire, which is needed. And after the Worlds matches, I realized how important having 3 open fire was. So, you know, my current list has 3 open fires. But again, like, that was a choice I made because I thought, okay, it's going to be a lot of Han 2. Choke can answer Kelleran and Luke when it has the 2 damage. Choke answers Chirrut. Choke answers Sabine. And that was the big thing because I knew Yoda had a bad aggro match. A lot of people are splashing in Force Lightning into their Yoda decks. I didn't feel like Force Lightning was needed. Because you have such strong play in the late game already. I didn't feel like Force Lightning was needed. I was more worried about the aggro decks, so that's why I chose to run Force Choke to enable the Anakin. You know, give them a card, sure, but as long as you're winning the board, the cards in hand don't matter as much, and Yoda's really good at winning the board. So that's what my reasoning was for that. The differences between the open list and the qualifier list, I did worse in the open. So probably goes to show that the changes I made were not great. I ended 5-4 in the open. I was just losing the aggro decks. I was also losing to misplays. Yoda's very difficult to play. Especially when it comes to You're My Only Hope, which I'll get into in a second. But the Itinerant Warrior is what I changed from the qualifier to the open. I was running Bombing Main in the qualifier, and I dropped the Bombing Main for the Itinerant Warriors. I thought that maybe the Itinerant Warriors would give me some play into the Space Aggro decks. Maybe it would give me some scrappiness in the ground that I could fight. You know, the Han 2 decks and things like that. The 4 damage with the shield is good at killing, like, Pose with 2 damage and things like that. Like, there's a lot of, like, that was my reasoning. It didn't end up working out for me. I found that Itinerant Warrior was actually not good into Space Aggro. Like, the 3 heal is just insignificant. It's just not going to do anything. So I really don't feel like Itinerant Warrior has a place in Yoda right now. I know a lot of people like it. I just feel it's too slow. Like, in the matchups that you need healing, it's just not enough healing. And then there are space decks anyway. And then in the ground decks, you really are kind of meeting the ground decks anyway, so you don't really need the Itinerant Warrior. So back to why I played Gar ECL. In the open, one of the final rounds, I think it was round 8 or something. I think the open had 9 rounds. It was crazy. But yeah, round 8 in the open, I played against a Gar ECL deck, or 7 or 8 or something like that. I played against a Gar ECL deck. And I did really well against him. I beat him handedly. But in that match, I felt like the way that the deck was playing really resonated with me. I was like, wow, this is such a cool deck. I had played Gar Saxon for pretty much since Gar Saxon was released. I've always played equipment decks. I love equipment decks. I played the Mandalorian Gar Saxon. I played Gar Saxon in Red. Red was what I started with, like Armed to the Teeth and Ruthlessness and things like that. And then, so I did red. When Hondo was released, I did double blue. I have not tried double blue again yet with, like, what is it? The makeup 5-5, size matters not. I haven't tried that yet, because that's definitely a thing, right? Like, you make a 6-5 with size matters not. Really, really good. Doom as well. Like, there are things in there. Like, double blue Gar definitely has some play still. But I was on that for a little bit with Hondo. Dropped that, and then after seeing this Gar ECL deck, I was really intrigued, because specifically with Craving Power. With Craving Power, that was the main thing. Because just the ability to hit for 7, and then really use that Gar Saxon ability. Both sides of it, right? Like the +1 and the bouncing. Because the bouncing is kind of not something you see a lot of. A lot of times, you know, you don't really get to utilize the bounce portion of his power. But using the Craving Power specifically lets you use that bounce portion very, very strong. And you could, like, by doing double Craving plays, you could really swing games and things like that. So that's very significant there. So was playing a guy, ended up talking, like, with him out, you know, why I love the deck. He mentioned to me that he had a friend of his, like, was playing a carbon copy of his deck that was in day 2. So, I knew it was doing well. And the deck really resonated with me. Like, the playstyle, the units that it plays. I love shields. Love shields. Luke Skywalker player. Love shields. So, that was it. Like, I was sold. And I basically told myself, like, if I didn't do good in the open with Yoda, and I didn't, I would come back and I would just switch to a different meta deck. Because I wanted to get my dub. I wanted my dub to get in the GC 26. So, you know, Yoda, kind of a meta deck, kind of like an off-meta deck. It's a known meta deck. Known off-meta deck? I don't know. Like, it's really close. I think it could win a tournament. It just has a bad aggro match. And I just wasn't willing to fold the aggro. I wasn't willing to fold to just aggro. I think something's there. We need to work on it a little more. I'm going to release another video of what my current thoughts are on Yoda. I'm going to try to get Sundeep on that video. We chatted a little bit. I'm going to talk to him and see if I can get him on the video to do like a deep dive on Yoda Red competitively. So we'll you know, sub to the channel. Watch out for that. Yeah, that's coming. But to get back into, and hey, come back in. I know, it's story time is over. Come back in and about this Gar ECL deck. But story time is not completely over, because I need to tell you where this deck list came from. Oh, first, before I get into where I got this deck list from for the Gar ECL, I wanted to give a shout out to Sir Thanos. Guy finished 25th overall out of the 2,500 players or whatever. Crazy. I played this guy round 3 of the qualifier. So this guy just runs through the qualifier, gets 25th. Crazy. A guy's a monster. But also, like, monster while playing the game, but also, like, one of the nicest people while like, monster in his actions and his utter push of damage with Sabine Wren. But really, really nice person. Because I actually talked to 2 different people that were saying how they had him as an opponent, and he was just so nice and would check back in on them. He was checking back in on me throughout the open, even during day 2. You know, just really nice person. I just want to give him a big shout out. Great finish, and just really great player. Like, he crushed me. He 2-0'd me. Was not ready for the onslaught that is modern day Sabine with Yoda Red. But back to the Gar ECL. So what I did, so again, played it round 2 or 3. I wasn't watching the world stream, right, because I was playing. So I didn't really know what was succeeding. So unbeknownst to me, Gar ECL actually had been on stream 2 times throughout the weekend. So again, like the person I faced round 7 or 8 or whatever of the open, he mentioned that he had a friend in. So the first thing I did when I got home was I looked at the standings and said, okay, what was the top Gar ECL? The top Gar ECL was Robb Briggs, and let's take a look at this wonderful list that he has. Oh no. Got it good, now get inside. Go in and go where everybody knows everybody. So yep, right here. Here is Robb's list. So this was basically I just benchmarked off of this list, and I'm gonna be upfront about it, right? Hey, shout out to Robb. And here's the thing. People get weird about meta decks. People get weird about net decking and copying decks and original decks and things like that. There's a lot of skill expression and there's a lot of creative expression when it comes to deck building. I know this, and it's one of the reasons why I play this game. But it depends on your goals, right? My goal was to win a PQ, not to show the world that I'm a good deck builder. I already know that I'm a good deck builder. Hey, check out my YouTube. We got deck profile videos. All right, I wanted to win a PQ. And I'm not about to sit there and say that I'm going to pick up this meta deck and I am going to have more knowledge than someone who just played it in the Galactic Championship. Not going to happen. This guy probably has over 100 games, if not more, if not 200 or 300 games on this Gar Saxon ECL list. Why in the world would I think that I could get to that level of experience? Or, in a short period of time, I only had a week until the next PQs were starting. So it's okay, that's what I'm saying. It's okay to net deck, it's okay to say to yourself and to others that other people have more experience with the deck. That's okay. And obviously, like Robb, I watched his matches. I specifically skipped to the Gar ECL matches because, again, I really resonated with this deck. I'm like, this is right up my alley. It gives you control, it gives you aggression, it gives you Vader ECL, which is broken. It fights against the meta decks. Kylo was just the new hotness, right? Everyone was buzzing about Kylo. So I figured that during the next few events in the beginning, that people were going to be on Kylo. Another reason why I chose Gar ECL is actually something that Wu said. Wu said in one of his interviews that he felt that Han 2 was going to have a resurgence. So he said that Han 2 was going to have a resurgence. I agree. I agree with that 100%. What I found, I did some initial testing with Talzin, and I actually gave my the World Championship Talzin deck to Cynthia. So, and what I found, and talking with some of my locals about Talzin, really, really, really hard to play. Really, really hard to play effectively. And I felt like going into this next wave of the meta that, you have Talzin who won, really, really hard to play. I think it's going to take players several weeks, if not months, to really grasp how to run that deck effectively. And kudos to the winner of the GC for just probably being an S tier pilot in this game. Obviously, you win the GC, but even further, because I think that deck is just very, very, very difficult to pilot. So I felt like the difficulty of Talzin was going to push her down. Kylo is the flavor of the month because that's the new hotness. It's a style of deck that didn't really exist before, so that's the new hotness. And then Han is the big scary monster under your bed that you always need to look out for and keep in mind. So that's why I chose Gar, because I knew I could crush all the Kylos and Hans basically, and that's the main reason. So, but I didn't want to just carbon copy the deck, right? Because he didn't win. He didn't win, right? So there's something there. Why didn't he win? Well, I looked through his matches. I saw he lost to Talzin Red. I saw he lost to Yellow Palpatine. And then he lost to something. I want to say it was a Han 2 Blue, actually, he lost to. But he had beaten several other Han 2 Blues. But so maybe the matchup is not an auto win. Maybe you need to really think about how you're winning that matchup and adjust based on the way the match is going or the Hantu blue that you're facing. So there's something there. Like, yeah, so I didn't want to carbon copy his deck, so I wanted to make sure I had a full understanding of this deck in terms of building it before I started on my PQ adventure. So the next thing I did after I looked at Robb's, and I used this as a main benchmark, so immediately copy this, and of course I did the first thing that you always do when you meta deck and you net deck, is I made a bunch of changes. No! Do not make a bunch of changes to the meta decks. Don't do that. Again, this guy has hundreds of games on this. Play the deck the way that the creator intended it, at least for a few games. So that's what I did. I took the list, I played it carbon copied for about 10 or 15 games, and then I made some changes. Because you need to understand why certain choices are made for the deck. And then, funnily enough, after I played a few, made changes, I actually reverted most of those changes, but I did make some key changes, which we'll go over in a second. But I did want to mention something that most other Gar ECL decks are on right now, which is Wingman Victor 3. Wingman Victor 3 is a card that, it's a really efficient card for Gar. You know, it's 1 cost, +1/+1, and the experience, so you can actually get 4, what is that? You can get 4/3 for 1, right? Because you get the 1/1, it becomes 2/1 with Gar. You get the experience, and that is 2/1 as well. Amazing, right? Like, the stat to cost ratio of that card is through the charts. But the crazy thing I found was that, like, on paper, that card looks spectacular. The problem with it in this deck is you only have 9 space units, and you already are running 3 Iden, and 3 Iden is just way too strong. And if you looked at Robb's performance versus every other Gar ECL deck that ran Wingman Victor 3 in it, Robb just, like, blew them out. Not like, totally, okay? Like, I think the next top Gar was, like, 50th or something like that. Like, okay. So, like, not crazy, like, higher. But it was a clear distinction to me. Like, Robb obviously had figured out something, and that something was Owen. That was the main difference, I think, between the two kind of schools. You had some Gars running Owen and some running Wingman Victor 3. Owen just cracked the deck wide open, I think. Being able to Krennic Owen turn 1 is so key in matchups, like especially Talzin, that they're gonna do the power of the dark sides. Like, Talzin's whole game plan is she wants to limit you pre-flip, like with power of the dark side, Talzin's assassin, pre-flip, and then once she flips, she wants to take over the board. Just kind of like Quinlan, except like the blue villain version of Quinlan. So Owen prevents the power of the dark side. I'm going to talk more about how Owen, like, was really key to the victory of this PQ. But yeah, so that was the major difference. I am with the Owen with Robb, 100% on this one. It's better. The deck only runs, I think, 7 force units. Yeah, 7 force units. So, oh, no. 10 force units with the secretive. So it's a little low. You will whiff sometimes. You will. But, you know, it's mainly there for Power of the Dark Side. Mainly there for the Krennic, for 0. It fits so nicely into the deck, so it's great. So that was all the research and work that I did kind of leading up to the PQ. So I wanted to first understand what the current Gars were doing, where the Gars were currently failing, and how I could adjust the deck to potentially cover some of those weaknesses and cover some of those failures. So now going into the list that I actually played in the Delaware. So basically Robb's list, I saw a lot of people were only running 2 timelies. No. Not when you base your deck on the ECL ambush, and that is what you're doing with the Vader, you need 3 timelies. And timely just like way overperformed all day. Doing timely with like Iden, You know, like doing early timelies with like Iden, Shuttle, Long Pike. Like Long Pike is great to timely. And even like Super Laser Tech, great to timely. They're like timely just gives you so much play. When you build your deck to ambush with ECL, it gives you so much play. So that's the first major change I want to talk about that I did with this deck is I added the 2 Super Laser Techs in there. And I've had a lot of people ask me like why I was adding Super Laser Tech. I saw in Robb's list he was running the 2 Grievous and the 1 Knight of Ren, and then the 3 Outer Rims, right? So, and I was watching his Talzin Red match, and play testing against Talzin Red. Also, I realized that the Outer Rim Outlaw is actually a worthless unit in the Talzin matchup. Like, it's beyond worthless. Because what you're going to do is you're going to go Outer Rim, they're going to claim, and they're going to Talzin's Assassin first action, kill your Outer Rim. It's such a bad card in the Talzin matchup. It's basically unplayable in the Talzin matchup. So that's an amazing card in pretty much every other matchup. But Blue Villain Force that has Talzin's Assassin, terrible card, unplayable card. So that was like a knock against the card. So I was like, I know Blue Villain Force is going to be a huge part of the meta. This card's amazing, but if it has a hard counter in one of the top meta decks, maybe I need to go down on it. So I cut 1 Outer Rim. And then with the Knight of Ren, General Grievous, like, it's just a beater. A lot of people ask, like, why the General Grievous is in here. Very simple. It's a 4/4 on 3 that you can upgrade. It gives you access to the 7 damage with Craving. It gives you a really, really strong legal authority target against aggro. You know, the 5 power, meaning you can capture any ship with 4 power, and that actually was incredibly relevant in my top 4 match with Kazuda Thermal. So game 1 and game 2 were crazy. Game 3 was a nail biter, and the reason I won game 3 is because I played General Grievous, and then she had piloted one of her ships, making it a 4/6 or something like that, and then I actually legal authority'd the piloted ship because of the extra damage from upgrading Grievous, making him 5. So that was huge. Like, 2-for-1ing the Kazuda in the top 4 was massive. Yeah, really, really big there. You know, but not something you think about, right? Like, a lot of people, like, they go for the 4/6 ships because it plays around Power of the Dark Side and Takedown. So, like, great, you play around Power of the Dark Side and Takedown, but now the legal authority then comes in and solves that issue for you. Legal authority was such a good card all day. I contemplated actually adding 1 main. I would not knock anyone for playing 1, like, if you're in a heavy aggro meta, 1 main, 2 side, or 3 side. I would not knock anyone. The Childson was okay. It was okay. I think it's a little slow for this deck. You kind of need to claim Power of the Dark Side if you want it to be good. But it's a beater, right? Like, you know, the 7 or 6 damage that you're going to get from him is just huge. And I'm sure that another one of the main reasons why Robb, and actually pretty much and that was the thing that sold me, right? Like, I didn't just look at Robb's list. I looked at like 4 or 5 top ECL Gar lists, and they all were having Childson at 3. So I knew I had to put him in there. I'm kind of iffy on him in here. I would probably cut to 2, and then because I only really added 2 of them in when I was adding them, and then probably go to the 3 legal authority. I think the 3 legal authority for the space aggro and for aggro in general is just really, really, really strong in Gar Saxon, giving you that +1 damage and 2 HP. Like, the 2 HP, like, so if, like, you do it against Sabine, right? Like, you capture, like, K2 with, like, let's say you capture K2 with General Grievous, which would be an awesome play, right? Awesome play. Now Grievous has 6 HP. If they, like, Wrecker ECL or Poe ECL, they have to commit the full Poe attack, likely, or you're only taking 1 damage with the Wrecker because they can't ping him. So, like, things like that. So, like, legal authority, S tier card in Gar Saxon, for sure. So, I'm sorry, back to the super laser tech. I got way off topic. So why I added I noticed in the Talzin matchup that, the Outer Rim was mid. The General Grievous is just kind of a vanilla beater, right? Like, it's good when it's good, and in other scenarios, it's just kind of meh. It's a vanilla 4-4. So I was thinking that, the Talzins were always doing basically the same thing. They would control you, and then they would flip, and then they would Saber Talzin, they would hit you for 6, and then, they would just control you. So I figured, and they were pushing heavy damage, because if they would get, the Talzin's Assassin off, they would do at least, 12 damage to you on the flip turn. They would do, they would do about 12 on the flip turn with the Talzin's Assassin and the Talzin and Saber. So they were doing heavy damage on the flip turn because they would take over the field, and then that's when they would start to push damage. So I figured that because the Outer Rim and the Grievous weren't really helping me, I can't Legal Authority Talzin because she's just going to kill whatever I Legal Authority, get it back. It's just going to be a wash for me. I figured if I SLT and then ramp and then Vader her on deploy. And that's the thing, these 5 deploy leaders, Han and Talzin, being able to access Vader on deploy is very key. And it came in, and actually in the finals match, in game 1 at this PQ, I was able to get off a super laser tech early, get the Vader, and then Vader on deploy. Vader the Han on deploy. Huge blowout when you do that, because they don't get the mind. Because usually Han decks, they love to double play on their deploy turn. They go 3-4, double play on the Han flip. Usually, the blue decks like to do that. That's where the SLT comes in. That's where the Vader on deploy comes in. Prevent that 6 to 10 damage from Talzin as well. So that was the reasoning there. So take 2 cards that were mid in a lot of situations, especially when it comes to the Outer Rim and Talzin's Assassin, and then add in the super laser tech that's going to help accelerate you, and meet the Talzins, meet the Han 2s on curve on their game, so that way you can push to win. So that was key there, and super laser tech was a dominant force all day. Really, really strong. So that was the one change I made. Another thing I want to mention is just how strong the shuttle ST-348 is. The one change I made to the deck before I clocked 30, 40 games with it is I did drop the shuttle down to 2. Quickly moved back to 3 when I realized that the shuttle was basically the main strategy against space aggro. You pretty much have only, and I told this to the Kazuda top 4 player, you pretty much only have one line in game 1, I would say. In game 1. This is not something I mentioned. I said I pretty much only have one line against you. I was being truthful. That one line, it gets a little bit better in game 2 when you can Legal Authority. You have more lines than you can Grievous Legal Authority. You don't have to play full space. But that full space is the only thing you have game 1, and shuttle is basically cornerstone to that strategy. If you watch, I think Robb actually beat out a Kazuda in, I don't want to say round 5 or 6 or something like that. But what he did was he Krennic ECL shuttled 3 games in a row. And, hey, if I could draw like that, I would win every tournament I ever played in. Really lucky there. The Kazuda match was very tough. I played one in top 4. I did Krennic shuttle ECL game 1. Very lucky. Because, again, game 1 is very limited. You need those legals. You need the legal authority in game 2. Very key there. The other thing I want to mention is Anakin Skywalker, of course, acting as a 4th Vader here. Again, straight from Robb, but good on him for identifying that you need that 4th copy of Vader to add consistency to the ECL, to add consistency to the timely use. Anakin, excellent with ambush, will come down and kill Talzin, on 6 consistently for you. And then the rest of the deck, I was actually learning while I was playing. It's crazy because the deck is actually really hard to play because you have 2 modes that you're playing. You have 2 games that you can play. You can play control or you can play aggressive. And the deck is so good at doing both things. It's crazy. It's actually crazy how good this deck is at playing both simultaneously and then going hard on one of them depending on the situation. And that was actually what I was learning as I was going through the tournament. A lot of times, especially I lost to a Talzin Red round 2, I think. And the reason I lost is because I went aggro. I was thinking, okay, I have more damage, so let me play aggressive and let me go aggro. That was not the way. And then I corrected myself. I played my wife, I think, in a later round, and she's also running the World Championship deck, and I beat her because I played control. I switched up my game plan. And I also played a pickup game. The guy was nice enough, the first Talzin Red player that I played, I had very little Talzin experience, so I was like, hey, can we play a pickup game? You beat me so handedly. Can we play a pickup game? He's like, absolutely. Play that pickup game, played control, beat him. So, you leveraging the shield specifically to play control in certain matchups is very key for this deck. So, yeah, the deck, it just ran beautifully. Huge shout out to Robb. If not for you, I would not have my Worlds invite right now. I just want to be clear about that. I did my deck techie thing where I made those 2 card changes. It's not a meta deck if you change 1 card, aka. But huge shout out to Robb. Thank you for pioneering this deck and really making those hard deck choices that I didn't need to go through. For example, the one of Hot Shot, for example. Not every Gar was on that. Was key, won me countless games, the 3 damage, basically surprise strike at that point, from the resource row. Huge there, the 2 takedowns, again, not everyone was on takedown, but the takedowns were so key, in the space aggro match, getting those stolen haulers from Vader was really, really important. Having an answer for Victor Leader, very important. Just a lot of things that takedown did for me, just a clean answer to Chirrut. Really key there as well. Just the takedown did work all day as well. So now the next thing I want to just briefly talk about, the sideboard. A lot of people were asking me, one small change that I made in addition was I dropped 1 Confiscate in the sideboard for 1 Snoke. And a lot of people were asking me, DDA, why did you play that Snoke? And I didn't really even play it all day, right? No, I didn't play it that much. I put it in a few times. It's a late card for this deck, and that's why there's only 1 of them, right? I am well identifying that this is a late card for this deck. This deck is not designed to go that late. That's why it may look weird that Snoke is in there, but that Snoke was very, very key to my strategy, specifically for metagaming, because I found with this deck that Quinlan is tough. Quinlan is tough always. Quinlan is just a very difficult personality to play against, and, he plays that control-y aggro game kind of like how you do, except he's reducing your damage, much like Talzin, right? He's reducing your damage and things like that. The other thing that you have to jump through, though, is you have to jump through the discard, which makes the Super Laser tech a little bit worse, because you want every unit that you play to be highly impactful. And if you're basically, Super Laser Tech is saying, I'm going to trade a card for ramp, and against Quinlan that may not be better. If you can Vader ECL Quinlan on deploy, there you go. But if you can't do that and you end up pushing into the late game, because Quinlan always seems to go into the hyper late game. Whenever I play Quinlan with my mid-rangey decks, I always seem to go to resource 9 or 8. And then they always beat me with frickin' Han ambush. That's always what it is. It's always, we go into 7, 8, 9, and then I get Han, 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 and then I lose. So, and being that Vader and Maul have 6 HP, I'm like having PTSD. I'm like, oh my god, here comes the Han. And also, I'm in the area of Wu. Wu is around here. I'm pretty sure he lives more north than me. I think he lives in New York area. Not sure though. But he's in the area. So I didn't know if he was coming down. Like, he's the 3rd place. He's probably the best Quinlan player in the world. I needed to prepare for Quinlan, and my silver bullet against Quinlan is Snoke. Quinlan simply cannot do anything against Snoke. You drop down Snoke, and you just win the game. They can't do anything. You know, their Cassian Smuggles do 1, their Falcons do 1, and then they can't Han ambush you. They Han for 4. They can't ping the Snoke because they don't play anything for 8. They can't Han, they can't Mace, ambush. They're just done. Like, as soon they can waylay. That's what they can do. But as long as you know that, and you don't let them just, like, drop Snoke and waylay, or, like, you've burned a waylay or 2 already. And yeah, you just literally win the game off Snoke. So, Snoke was my silver bullet against Quinlan. I didn't play a Quinlan all day, but I knew that Quinlan was kind of looming in the background. I knew the top Quinlan player was in my area. So if I wanted to win the PQ, I needed the silver bullet against Quinlan. So that is why I put the Snoke in the sideboard. Although it didn't come up in the path to victory, it was there for me if I need. So that's pretty much it. That is the deck. That's the overview of, I just want to give a big shout out to Patrick, my fellow finalist, and just great matches that we played. Just really, really, like, technical matches. Like, a lot of people commented about the second game, how it looked like we were just kind of sitting there doing nothing. But, like, the mental game that we were in against each other, like, we were both so ready for what each other was doing, especially after game 1, and he kind of saw the way my deck worked. So he was actually on 3 out of aspect power of the dark side, which changed the Han match completely for me, because usually I can just outvalue them with shields and just run them over, but the 3 powers out of aspect changed everything. Getting the double minus on Anakin, getting just that extra control of any big unit that he wanted was huge. So huge shout out to my finalist opponent. We had such great games. Game 1 and Game 2 were especially insane. So yeah, I just huge shout out to Alternate Universes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone, for the support. Thank you, Logan, a member of my team, LGG, Lehigh Ground Gaming. We got about 20 or 30 of us here locally in Lehigh, the Lehigh County of Pennsylvania. We're all competitive players, and Logan really helped me out. He's been building space aggro, and the night before the PQ, we were just grinding games, and he 7-0'd my one pet deck. He 7-0'd it with his space aggro deck, and it just really got my gears grinding about how I was going to handle space aggro in this tournament. And I think if I didn't have those matches, and Nate as well, Nate was my spirit guide the entire day. He was like hyping me up, every match that I played, he had my back, and he grounded me, he got me there mentally, and he also really helped me we played 2 pickup games before the match, before the tournament started with his Vader space deck, and then we played again in the tournament. Just that space experience helping me succeed against Kazuda in the top 4. All of it came together. Just big shout out to everyone. And I love this deck. And if you like that kind of technical game that you can play with ambush and deciding between aggressive and control, this is the deck for you. This is clearly a tier 1 deck. Like I told people, I was carried by this deck today. I really was. I made mistakes all day. All day I made mistakes. I made mistakes in the top 4. I blew game 2. I had game 2 in the bag, and I just literally had to attack sequence different. I attacked with my big thing first, and then she Cassian smuggled for the last damage that she needed. I had lethal that turn. I just had to sequence differently, and I had it. But, you know, it is what it is. And then, you know, but it was a great day. We got the dub in the end. And we're going to Worlds 26. Hey, we're not doing the qualifier anymore. No. We're not doing that qualifier. We're doing side events day 1. We are in now. LGG. We got the first PQ win for LGG. Stay tuned and stick around. Like I said, we got those videos coming on the Yoda, and then as well, we have so many videos coming. I'm going to have so many deck techs coming out. Now that I don't need to worry about winning a PQ, I can kind of just release all my sauce, because I kind of hold back some of my sauce a little bit. As you can see, like, I haven't released a deck tech in a little bit because I want to win a PQ. But I did, so now I can release my sauce for all of you. But yeah, stay tuned and stick around with us. Hey, Random Number Gaming, we got it. We got the PQ.